Hello, everyone. We are live with another episode of Level Up Law, where every Tuesday at noon, South Carolina Legal Services levels up your legal knowledge about an area of law that we practice in. I'm attorney Susan Ingalls, and normally I'm joined by our producer, Kenneth Elliott, but he is not with us today. He's off today, so I will be handling the production side, also with our IT director, Pat Muller. Today, we are joined by Melinda Taylor. Mindy is an attorney in our Columbia office, and she is our family law unit head. And today, Mindy will be discussing information about that all-important document in family court, the financial declaration. But before Mindy gets started, I do want to remind everyone that this is not legal advice. It's just general information for the public. So if you need the help of a lawyer, you can always call our intake line here at Legal Services or apply online. And that information about how to do that will be provided to you today. Now, all of our episodes are recorded and posted to the Level Up Law playlist on our YouTube channel, usually within about 24 hours, and that information for applying for our services is available there as well. Now, today, Mindy can answer some general questions about the topic, and we can do that at the end of her presentation. So if you do have a general question, feel free to put it there in the question box. And just a reminder, be sure to check out our social media, like, subscribe, and get all the up-to-date information that we provide to you here on Level Up Law, as well as all of our other resources. Those websites and social media handles can be found at our website at www.sclegal.org. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Mindy Taylor to talk to us about the financial declaration. Take it away, Mindy.
Okay, thanks, Susie. So hopefully if you're listening to this, you've at least looked at the financial declaration, and financial declarations are required basically almost anytime you have a hearing in the family courts in South Carolina. So first, I just want to give you a few tips for preparing the financial declaration, and then we'll go into the actual details of it. First, you'll want to always be honest about it. Whatever your financial situation is, honesty is the best policy here, because if you were to be untruthful on your financial declaration, there is the penalty of perjury if you were to get caught. So truthfulness is very important. The best way to get started on this document is to get your most current pay stub and utilize it. And you should also have any other important financial documents close by whenever you're preparing this document. That could be bank statements, or maybe your checkbook, ledger, any bills, and you would utilize those to get the information onto the document. So I'm having trouble getting the slide to go forward. There we go. All right, so the financial declaration is Form 430. It's SCCA 430, and it can be found on the SC Courts website. If you go to SC Courts website, and then you look under forms and family court, and then it would, if you scroll down the document itself, financial declaration is listed there. And again, the number is 430. This is just a clip of the top part of the form, and I just want to go over these things real briefly. If you're filling one of these out, you have most likely already began your litigation, or you're in the process of filing litigation. So you've either been served with legal documents, or you have actually already filed the pleadings and you've served the other side. So The information at the top here is information that you would get off of that summons and complaint. So the same, you would fill in the county that the case has been brought. So if it's Richland County, you would write Richland, where that line is, where it says county of, and then you write the plaintiff and the defendant's information, just as it is in the caption of the pleadings that you were served or served on the other party. The judicial circuit over here is basically the judicial circuit that the county is in. So that would also be on those pleadings that you were served. So if it was Richland County, we would be in the 5th Judicial Circuit. If it was Lexington County, you would be in the 11th Judicial Circuit. And if you're having trouble locating that, just look at your complaint, and that should be on there. And then down here where it says financial declaration of blank, you're going to put the name of the person that's filling out this document. So if you're the plaintiff and your name is John Doe, you would put John Doe. If you're the defendant and your name is Jane Smith, you would put Jane Smith. And then, of course, the docket number. And that docket number is real important for the clerks to be able to identify where to file this document whenever you do. So this information at the top here is always the same on all documents filed in your family court case throughout the proceeding. So the first thing that's really important, I know a lot of people look at this document and say, well, what if I don't have my husband's information, or what if I don't know my wife's financial information? Well, you don't really need to know it. All you're doing is filling out this form for yourself. So if you're the husband or the father, you only are going to fill out this side that says husband, father. If you are the wife or mother, you're only going to fill out that side that pertains to you. If you are maybe a third party, like a grandparent that is trying to get custody over a child, what I usually do here would be I would white out wife, mother, or one of these sides and just write in the name of the person that is filling this out. All right, so with that, we just fill out the one side that applies to our situation. Of course, you want to put your address, your age at the time of filling this out, your occupation, your employer, and your employer's address. One thing that does come up with a lot of times in abuse or abusive relationships is, well, I don't want him to know where I work, or I don't want him to know where I live. So if that is the case, if you've been the victim of domestic violence, you could likely put protected here with the employer or the employer's address. That is something we do regularly. So here's just basically what I did was I did the blank one, and then I'm showing you here where we've filled out this information. So our sample case today is going to be Sally Sparkles versus Gary Grumpy, and this is going to be Sally Sparkles' financial declaration. As you can see here, I just put X's here, but you would put whatever the last 4 of your case number are there. So this is exactly how you would want to fill it out, and don't leave anything blank. All right, the next part of the financial declaration is your income. So this is in the middle of the first page, and this is where we're going to add in any income that you're bringing into your home. So, and this would be the amount you're going to list here is the amount that you would receive prior to anything being taken out of your check. So this is the amount you would get if we didn't have to pay taxes and all those other things. So that's your gross monthly income, and that's what they're looking for here. So you're just going to list beside any of these lines your income if they apply to you. So the first thing you need to know is that financial declarations are based on your monthly income and your monthly expenses. And sometimes that's hard to figure out what is your monthly income. If you get paid once a month, it's easy. You just put down the actual amount you get paid once a month. A lot of people get paid twice a month, and some people get paid every 2 weeks. Well, twice a month and every 2 weeks, even though it seems like it would be the same, it's not. So there is a formula I use to figure this out. If it's twice a month, you would just add those two paychecks together, and that would be your gross monthly income. If you get paid every 2 weeks, though, the formula is a little bit harder because there's actually 4.33 weeks in a year. And you would have 26 pay periods as opposed to 24 if you were getting paid twice a month. So if you receive your paycheck every 2 weeks, the formula would be to take what you receive every 2 weeks. Let's just say it's $1,000. You would multiply that by 26 because you're going to get paid 26 times in the year. And then you're going to divide that by 12. And that is the formula to get your gross monthly income if you are getting paid every 2 weeks. So the first step is to try to figure out, how often do I get paid? Am I a month? Do I get paid every month? Do I get paid every week? Do I get paid every 2 weeks, or is it twice a month? And if it's every 2 weeks, take the number you get, multiply it by 26, divide it by 12. If it's every week, you could either take that amount and multiply it by 4.33 to get your gross monthly income, or you could take your weekly income, let's just say it's $1,000, multiply it by 52 for 52 weeks, and then divide it by 12. So that would be the way you come up with your weekly, if you get paid weekly. I know that's a little complex, but hopefully I've explained that well enough. If you receive any type of benefits, you would want to list those in here. And again, this would be the amount you would receive prior to anything being taken out. And if you receive spousal or child support from another marriage or another relationship, you would list it here. If you're receiving child support from the person you're in litigation with, you don't have to list it there, or you would not list it there. Where it says other at the bottom there, sometimes I might list things like food stamps and the amount. I don't know that that's necessary, and I usually don't list it over in the actual column of income. So if you have a child in your house that receives like SSI benefits, you're not going to count those as your income. That's not counted. So that's just some tips on how much to list. And what you'll do here is, let's say you receive $1,000 a month for employment, but also $1,500 a month from the VA. You would take those two numbers, add them together, and then at the bottom here where it says total gross monthly income, that's where you add it together. So I have a sample here for Sally Sparkles. She gets $1,563.18 a month in income from her job, but she also gets $210 a month in child support from a different relationship, not from Gary Grumpy. And then we put those two together, and that's her gross monthly income prior to taxes. All right, so the next section, it's still on the first page, is what's coming out of your check. So this is anything that's actually coming out of your check before you get your your check. So it should be on your pay stub, and that's why I said it's really important to have your pay stub, your most recent pay stub, when you go through this. And here's where you're going to list everything that comes out of your check. Just on your side, you add it all together, and then you would take the gross monthly income from the section before, and you subtract the deductions, and you come up with your net monthly income. So that's what you're bringing home. So here I have Sally Sparkles. This money is going to the government and her insurance, and she's giving $16 to her 401k every month. So her total deductions here, and then, and then her net monthly income, because I took the 1,700 and I minus what we're taking out, this is what she's bringing home. Okay. So go on to page 2 of the financial declaration. This is where we're going to start listing our expenses. Now, if you have household members, sometimes people might have grown children living with them. You're going to list those people up here at this top line. I think it's important, like especially if you're seeking alimony in a case, for a judge to know whether you're supporting an adult child or not. That's what they're looking for there. So so if there's anybody living with you that you're supporting, you're going to list them here. Going into the monthly expenses, you just want to list out everything that applies to you and that you're actually paying monthly. So if you are living with someone else and you're not paying the rent, they're paying the rent, then you're not going to list anything here. If you're not spending money on any of these items, you list nothing. You just list the items that apply to you. So here's Sally Sparkles again. This is what she's spending out every month, and as you can see, the things she's not spending money on are left blank. At the bottom, or I'm sorry, it's not at the bottom, it's actually in the middle of the page. There's a subtotal there. So that's all these items added together equal that. And then there's the next section is still dealing with expenses. And this is a little bit more difficult section for some of my clients, I think, because it's easy when you're dealing with these things, like you know what your rent is every month, you know about what your utilities and garbage is going to cost every month. These things are more concrete, whereas some of this stuff is things on this next list that you may not have that expense every month. You may only buy children's clothing twice a year, or you may only buy adult clothing 3 times a year, or you may only pay your property taxes once a year. So in this section, what I would do is, let's say you pay property taxes on your residence. So when it says real property taxes, that's what they're talking about on a house or on land. And let's say your property taxes are $1,200 a year, but you only pay that in December. So what you would put here is $100, because it would be the $1,200 divided by the 12 months, and you're spending out on average $100 a month. And the best thing to do here is just to kind of add up those expenses on more or less on a yearly basis, divide them by 12, and then insert those numbers. The last part here where it says all installment payments, that's going to be anything you're paying on monthly. So if you have credit cards, if you have a student loan, if you have a car payment, that is going to go basically in that block. Now, if you had already put your auto payment up here, you're not going to put your auto payment down there. Obviously, you don't want to count things twice. So, but any other type of installment payments other than a car payment, a house payment, so credit cards, student loans, things like that, medical bills, anything you're paying on monthly is going to go in this category here. If you need to add something here, if you will notice these little numbers here, see how it says 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That the back page of the financial declaration, and I don't have it on the screen. I don't have it in the slideshow, but the back page actually references those numbers. So if you get to something and you don't know where it goes, and you say, well, I don't know what category to put this in, what do I do? Well, if you look at the back page of that financial declaration, it has a very detailed list of exactly where to put stuff. So for example, if you tithe to your church, I believe, just off the top of my head, I'm not looking at the list, but I believe that's going to go in adult incidental expenses. If you go get your hair cut once a month or once every 2 months, that's where that's going to end up being. So if you don't know where things go, look at that back page of the financial declaration and it'll tell you exactly where to put it. So again, here's Sally Sparkles. This is what she's spending out on average per month for these items. We're going to add all those things together, bring it here for the subtotal, and then where it says total monthly expenses, we're adding together the subtotal that was up here and this subtotal. So I'll just go back just to make sure you see. There's her subtotal. And there it is again. So we add those two together and that gives us her total monthly expenses. Now, Sally Sparkles claimed that she brought home $1,431 a month, but her monthly expenses are $2,230. Sometimes people are a little scared or don't think that they should submit a financial declaration if it doesn't balance out. And that's not necessarily the case. You need to be truthful. So if you are spending out $2,200 a month, but you're only bringing in $1,400, then put it on there. And you have to be truthful on this for the court. All right, so the next section on page 2, it's at the very bottom, is installment loan payments. And this is where you're going to list any installment loans or credit cards, medical bills, student loans, things like that, that you are making monthly payments on. Now, if you have those things and you're not making monthly payments, that's going to go in a different section. But this is the ones that you're actually paying on. And I'm going to show you what we have for Sally Sparkles. She has a JCPenney card. She purchased clothing for it. You could also just list consumer here if you're not really sure what you bought with it. Her monthly payment and her balance of $312. And the credit card is in her name only. So if her husband, Gary Grumpy, was also on the credit card, we would probably list both their names there. And I'm just going to go up. So if you can see the monthly payment here is $25, I'm going to go back up to this section here where it says all installment payments. That's where I get that $25 from. So I have added together all her installment loans and I put them there. Now, if she had more, if she had let's say a belt card also, and she's making a $25 monthly payment, and she's got a balance of 600, then, oops, then here would have been $50 as opposed to 25. So because they're all added together. All right. Now, we'll move to the third page of the financial declaration. And this is where you're going to list any debts that you're not paying for. So a lot of times student loans are in deferment. So you would list those loans here. If you have credit cards that you're just not paying on, you would list those here as well. And then you're going to check whether you're in bankruptcy or not, and whether any of the obligations listed above are in arrears, meaning are you behind on anything? So if you're behind on the mortgage, if you're behind on the rent, you owe the landlord rent, or you haven't paid Sears, the credit card payment, then you're going to check yes. And that's even if you're just 1 month behind, you're going to check yes. And then you're going to list the obligations that are in arrears. If nothing's in arrears, you're current on everything, then you're going to check no. So here is Sally Sparkles. She has her student loan that she's not paying for because it's being deferred right now due to the COVID package. And she lists her balance. She's not in bankruptcy and nothing is in arrears right now. The next part has to do with marital property. If you're in a case that does not involve a marriage ending, then this section is not applicable to you. But if you're in a case where you're separating from your spouse or divorcing your spouse, then you're going to need to fill this next section out here. So, and again, if it's in Sally Sparkle's name, we're going to list it here. If she has a 401k or a retirement account, it's going to be listed here. If she has any stocks or bonds, it's listed. Where it says here, value of real estate minus net of mortgage balances, this is where you say, okay, if her house is worth $110,000, but she owes $90,000 on it, then she's got $20,000 in equity. If the parties jointly own these assets, they're going to be listed over here. And then you just add up the values and put it here. So again, bank statements, any type of retirement account statements would be helpful to filling out this form. And then if there's any non-marital property known to the parties, and that's going to include anything that you owned prior to your marriage, anything that was inherited, you know, maybe your mother or father passed away and left you an inheritance, anything that you don't think your spouse would have claim to, and I say that loosely, would be listed here, and how it's titled, and when did you get it, and where did you get the money to get it, and then the estimated present value. All right, so this is you saying, I don't think this is marital property, and I'm listing it here. So here's again Sally Sparkles. She has $112 in the bank, and where I have listed here value of all other property. Essentially, if you sold all your other property at a garage sale, what would you get for it? She thinks she's going to get $500 for it. So she has $612 in assets. Of course, many people have much more assets. I'm just, you know, using her as an example here. All right, so then you get to the bottom of page 3, and it says if total assets are less than $300,000, sign and have notarized. Meaning you don't have to do anything else except go to page 4 and sign it at the bottom of page 4 and have it notarized. If your assets are greater than 300,000, you have to itemize those assets in these next few sections. If you have assets over $300,000, you should not be preparing this form yourself. You need to hire a lawyer, and they can do that for you. So I'm not going to spend any time on that next section. I'm just going to show you at the bottom section where I'm talking about sign it and notarize it. That's page 4 of the financial declaration. You're going to sign it and have it notarized. The family court requires the original to be filed. You would also provide the other party or other parties a copy as well. We just went over the long form financial declaration that is mainly used in the family court. There is a short form financial declaration, and I'm just going to briefly run through that. But it is only to be used in child support enforcement cases and an order of protection cases. So you cannot use this form for any other type of case. So if you've been served with custody, if you've been served with divorce, if you filed for divorce, custody, any of those things, you are not allowed to use the short form. You have to use the long form that we just spent the majority of time on. And I'll say this, I rarely get to use this short form, but when you do, it's really nice because it's not quite as time consuming to fill out. But basically with the short form, it's the same thing. You're going to have the caption information and the person who's filling it out information here, and then you just fill in these amounts. That's pretty similar to asking you pretty similar things as the long form. Is just in a different format, and you don't have to list like the specific credit cards and things like that. And then you would list the children's names here that are in the home and sign it and notarize it. So I think that's the end of my slideshow and presentation. I think the biggest thing, and I'll answer some questions if anybody has them. The biggest takeaway is to be honest with this financial declaration, utilize documents and be precise, and make sure that, especially with that income, you've thought through, do I get paid once a month, twice a month, or is it every 2 weeks, which is different than twice a month, and that you have those numbers, and always go back and check your numbers. Use a calculator, add that stuff up and add it up again to make sure you have the right numbers. We have a lot of great judges, but I think they get frustrated when numbers don't add up. So if you have all these numbers on the right, but then your subtotals aren't added up correctly, the judge may get frustrated because now they're having to add that stuff up. If you're seeking alimony, one of the factors is that you have to show that you have a need for alimony, and your financial declaration should reflect that need. So make sure you've thought about all your expenses. If you go to court showing you have $1,500 a month in income and you only have $1,200 a month in expenses, you're not showing a need for that alimony. And you may say, well, really, I don't have any money left over, or I don't have $300 left over every month. But your financial declaration should show what you do have left over or what you don't have left over. And it should be an accurate depiction of your financial situation at the time of going to court. The other thing that you should be aware of is that every time you have a hearing, you need to update your financial declaration and be prepared to present that to the court at that hearing. So if you did one, let's say you filed your case, you go to a temporary hearing, you have it there at the temporary hearing, and it's January of 2020. And by the time your case is finalized, it's now November of 2022, you're going to have to update that financial declaration and get the court a current one. Also, a lot of times the financial declaration is going to be utilized if you're trying to settle a case as well. So it's real important to keep those updated every time you go to court or attend a mediation or things like that. The rules actually require that it be filed. I believe that the rules say within 45 days of the case being filed. So it is important to go ahead and get that financial declaration done early on and then update it as your hearings come available. So just remember, honesty is the best policy. And the other thing you want to do with this is also attach a copy of your most recent pay stub to the back of the financial declaration. So when you file it, not only are you filing the financial declaration, but you're also filing a copy of your most recent pay stub. And that should also be shared with the other side at that point as well. I think I've covered everything. So at this point, I'm just going to open it up to any general questions you have about the financial declaration.
Thanks so much, Mindy. That was a great, thorough presentation. So thorough, in fact, that we only have one question at this point. So just remind our listeners that now is the time to put a question in that question box if you have one. But the question is, and it's a good one, it says, do I leave anything blank that does not apply to me, or do I put, NA, not applicable?
I think you could do it either way, but I just leave them blank. I just fill in what applies to my client and leave the other squares blank. And I've never had an issue with that. So
it does kind of make it busy, an awfully busy document. You put a bunch of NAs on there.
Right.
That way the judge can focus on the numbers that are listed. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, while we are waiting for any other questions for just a minute or two, I do want to say what a great presentation. And, I think you make a great point that honesty is the best policy. Be thorough. This is not the time to be clever and cute. This is a serious document that can have serious consequences. In particular, serious consequences if you put something on there that's not completely truthful. And like you said, one of the best ways to do that is to use documents that you have that prove the items that you have in there. So I think that was really good information. You went to every part of the financial declaration. So if people have questions, they should be answered by what you've already said. And I don't see any other questions in the question box, so we'll keep an eye on it for a moment. But Mindy, I just want to thank you, Mindy Taylor, Family Law Unit Head at South Carolina Legal Services, for an excellent presentation on financial declarations. Financial declarations, by the way, in South Carolina Family Court, which is where this, of course, only applies. So thanks so much for breaking that down for us. And I just want to say to our listeners, our viewers, that if you found this helpful and it might be helpful to others, which I'm sure it could be, please do go to our YouTube channel and share that out from the YouTube page for South Carolina Legal Services. Again, if you look on the playlist tab, we have a number of playlists, and one of those is the Level Up Law playlist, and you can view the entire playlist by clicking on the button that says View Playlist. So any of those that could be helpful to someone else that you know, or to you yourself, if you're having that kind of a legal issue, we definitely want you to share that out. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can sign up for notifications and alerts, so you're always alerted when we post a new video, just in case you haven't been able to see one of the live episodes, which one of the reasons why we post these on YouTube is that not everybody can tune in on Tuesdays at noon, but we appreciate it when you do. So again, thanks, Mindy, for a great presentation. And doesn't look like there's any more questions at this point. So just want to thank our audience for tuning in. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Level Up Law on Tuesday at noon. And thanks to you for tuning in today. That concludes today's webinar.
Thank you.